Now, there is a trend that idolizes people that we perceive have lots of power and authority, especially if that power is aimed at people we dislike. And the extent that we humans will go to in order to overlook somebody's evil just because we believe that they're going to jab our enemy in the jaw for us is actually pretty astounding. The great temptation many face is either seizing this power for themselves to wield upon it, or worshiping the one who has it and will wield it for our sake. And lots of evil is justified throughout all of human history in this manner. It's called idolatry, actually, in the Bible. Now, the final temptation says that the tempter figure takes Christ to a mountain that can somehow see all the kingdoms of the world, which a mountain that high doesn't really exist because the earth is round. And if you got high enough on the roundness, you still can't see around the curve without a mirror. Sorry, I'm just kind of nerding out. That's what I thought of. So the narrative context is not actually he can see all the kingdoms of the world, but that he is in the most high place, like a culmination, ongoing higher places until you get to the highest one, right? The desert, the pinnacle, and now the top of this highest mountain. So here, Christ is given the opportunity to seize all authority on earth by merely busting out his guitar and singing "How Great Thou Art." Okay, not quite. That's not what he meant when he says, "Just worship me." The phrase here means to kneel before someone and touch the ground with your forehead to pay them homage. And then Christ does not do that, obviously. He rejects that and says, "Get out of here, Satan." Now, Henry Nouwen says that power always lusts after greater power, precisely because it is an illusion. Power is an illusion. Despite our experience that power does not give us the sense of security that we desire, but instead reveals our own weaknesses and limitations, we continue to make ourselves believe that more power will eventually fulfill our needs. And then this is the root of the temptation of power, to quell our fears with the ability to shape the world around us as we see fit. And when we have more influence, more toys, more buying power than those in our circle, then we're finally going to have a sense of security and value and worth. But that circle always widens with somebody who has a little bit more than we do. And then we overtake them. And it widens and it widens and it widens in a spiral to get at the expense of another has no end. But this root of temptation of power is hidden behind a surface temptation to have a positive influence over our world. I mean, wouldn't you want to have a positive influence over our world? Now, we may convince ourselves that we would use power for good, but as J.R.R. Tolkien illustrated in his Lord of the Rings trilogy, greatest novel ever written, even Gandalf, the great wizard, refuses the ring of power for fear of it corrupting him through the open doorway of good intentions. But what better person to have all authority than Christ? I mean, how can this temptation be bad? Couldn't Christ just seize power now and use it against this tempter? And then all those who wield violence upon all of humanity? Wouldn't that be a better option? And that's actually what Peter wants in chapter 16. And he tells Christ to dodge the crucifixion, just grab power. But he is instead told, "Get behind me, Satan." Because that temptation in chapter 16 is a revisit of this temptation here. To get power by means of seizing it is its own God and demands worship and service to its own ends. And Christ does receive all authority, but on heaven and earth at the end of this narrative, because of his faithful traversing through the trials and temptations of the human experience, enduring the hatred and violence of humankind during the crucifixion, and now sits in this helpless weakness of death and burial, but all in perfect obedience and love. It is this humility and patience that leads to resurrection, the defeat of death entirely, and the crowning of Christ as King of all of creation, Christ rejects the seizing of power here, all authority can be given to him later in the resurrection, because he never seizes, he receives. And this authority he shares with his other human ones, frail and mortal. And this is what it means to follow Christ in this world, to do so on God's terms, by God's means, for God's ends. And to shortcut through humility to victory is the temptation